happy birthday to the Nintendo Switch. Welcome back to the channel. It has been 5 years, 11,000 games, and 3 variations or 3 iterations of Nintendo Switch consoles that have actually come out, and the Nintendo Switch has finally turned 5 today. And the one question throughout this time that everyone has always asked, that everyone has always wondered is, how long can this actually last? And today that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, the Nintendo Switch 5 years later. The Nintendo Switch has officially sold 103 million units worldwide, which is insane. It is the hottest selling handheld console in the world, only behind the Nintendo Game Boy, which had a bunch of different iterations, as well as the Nintendo DS, which was another insanely big line with a large number of iterations, which was considered as just one console. The DS, the Switch is only behind the 2 of these, and with the number of revisions we're getting for the Switch, as minute as they may be, I think it's going to catch up to the DS and the Game Boy and become the #1 selling handheld console in history. What I'm trying to say is, unlike the Nintendo Wii U, the Nintendo Switch really did its part. It did really well, and it actually performed super well over the years, growing not only with the help of hardware but also software and third-party support. The Nintendo Switch has been pretty much one of Nintendo's biggest success stories. Now, all these years later, I'm still rocking the original Wii 1 Nintendo Switch, which is really good according to me. And standard question that I get asked even today is why I'm rocking this and which Switch console you should actually buy if you're somebody who's looking at getting into the system. Now, honestly, even if you buy the original Nintendo Switch which came out, we have 2 minute versions of this. You get a red box as well as a white box. The red box was the slightly newer one, which ran slightly cooler and had slightly better battery life, but it's pretty much the same. So yeah, this is the version 1. You can pick this up today. I'm still running this. I think it's fantastic. It gives you tabletop mode, it gives you handheld mode, it actually switches, and it also gives you docked mode where you can play on a TV, which is fantastic. I honestly believe dock mode, when you play it on this or whether you play it on the other Nintendo Switch models, is exactly the same. The specs say the same thing, so it's going to be the best version of docked mode if you buy this. And handheld mode is fantastic. It's my preferred way of playing. Tabletop mode on this console is okay, but the kickstand that they provided over here is really flimsy, so your Switch can topple over, so you might want to buy a third-party stand for this. But other than that, you can pick up the original Switch if you like. Also go for the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is the stripped-down version of the original Nintendo Switch. Now, this is a lot smaller. It's got a unibody design, and it's only meant for handheld gameplay. And honestly, if you ask me, I think it's the best version of the Switch if you're interested in only handheld. It's going to give you the best handheld experience overall, and there's a bunch of reasons for this. Now, it has a unibody design. The build quality is fantastic. I love the colors and the special editions that they came out with for this iteration of the Nintendo Switch. I absolutely love the fact that we have a D-pad on this, because the D-pad is game-changing, and I hate the 4 buttons that we have on the original Switch on the left Joy-Con. The Joy-Cons on this are completely fixed. They do not come off, which is a pro and a con. The pro being that it's one body. It's a lot firmer. It feels a lot better. No matter how well designed the original Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch OLED is, the Joy-Cons are always something that have a little bit of give to them when you're using your Switch in your hand. You're not gonna feel that on the Nintendo Switch Lite. Now, while this Nintendo Switch Lite doesn't really switch like the original and the Nintendo Switch OLED, and while the Joy-Cons don't come off and you can't actually play it in docked mode, it does have its downsides, but for a dedicated handheld, you can definitely go down this road, especially with the price point that's a lot lower than the original and the OLED. Finally, we have the Nintendo Switch OLED, which is a fantastic model, an upgrade to the original Switch, but you can still buy an original Switch from Nintendo. So it's just a better version of the original Switch. It has an OLED screen, as the name suggests. It definitely comes with a few benefits over the Switch and the Switch Lite. A bigger, brighter, much more color accurate screen, so your handheld gameplay is going to be fantastic. Better kickstand, which was definitely needed on the original Switch. So if you're playing in tabletop, which is something that I don't normally do, it's still fantastic. It's really good, and it has a better kickstand, so you're going to be a lot more secure when you plump your little Switch down on a table and start sharing your Joy-Cons with people. It's not going to topple over. And it also has docked mode, which is what you have with the original Switch, but docked mode when you're playing on a TV on any of the Nintendo Switches is the exact same, so there's not much of an upgrade over there. But yeah, if you're into handheld, it's definitely better. The speakers are louder. You have an Ethernet port on the new dock that you get, and you also have the white custom Joy-Cons, which look fantastic in my opinion, but it is also a lot more expensive. So if you're looking at buying a Nintendo Switch today, you probably wouldn't go wrong with any of the Switch models, considering the internals on all these models models except for the screens. All the internals, the gaming performance, the graphic performance, the game engines, everything is identical. The chip used inside all of these switches is identical, so you're gonna get the same gaming performance on all of them. Now the Switch Lite may not be able to play all the games because it's a light version. There's a couple of games that you can't play on it. You need to read up on that before you actually buy it. But majority of the first party games like Legend of Zelda and Mario and a bunch of different games do work on the Switch Lite. You're not really gonna feel bad about what you're missing out on. Of course, considering today is the Nintendo Switch's birthday, the pressing question that everyone wants to know is what comes next. Now, granted, this is the 5th year for a console, and in the bigger console market with the Xbox and the PlayStation, yes, we do normally revise our consoles. At this point, we get a new generation, but we do not have a new generation of the Nintendo Switch, especially when it comes down to gaming performance. Probably because the 5th year of the Nintendo Switch may be one of its strongest years ever. We have a 5-year backlog of games on the eShop right now available for the Nintendo Switch. So if you're somebody who wants to go out and buy a Switch right now in its 5th year, you have such a huge library of games. It's insane. You can spend the next 5 years playing a Nintendo Switch if you pick it up today. Also, we just had a Nintendo Direct in 2022, January, and it was a fantastic Nintendo Direct. Guys, the number of games that we have lined up for this year, including first party games, is phenomenal. We have a brand new list of amazing games that are supposed to come out in 2022, so the lineup for this year is also amazing. So if you're a new Switch owner, you have a lot of amazing games that are coming in the next year, and you also have 5 years of backlog that can keep you playing for another 5 years. So yes, the Nintendo Switch, when it comes to what comes next, is gonna stay. I think it's gonna stay for another 2 to 3 years minimum. Now granted, the Steam Deck is up for pre-orders at the moment, which is a fantastic handheld. We also have a bunch of emulators, and our mobile phones have gotten so good at mobile games. Yes, we have all of these additional handheld portable gaming devices on the market now, but don't forget, it was a Nintendo Switch that actually kickstarted the gaming dedicated handheld market back in 2017, and it's been rolling on ever since. The only reason we're looking at a Steam Deck even today is because of how well the Nintendo Switch has done, and this is the console that put portable gaming and handheld gaming back on the market a couple of years ago, and it's still going to remain the pioneer. But if you're still on the fence about buying a Switch in 2022, let me tell you a little something about the console and its future that's going to help you make this decision. I think the Switch is 5 years old at this point. We have a large number of multi-platform console and mobile games available on the Switch, such as Fortnite, Apex Legends, Cozy Grove, and so many more, which were just not available in the first 1 or 2 years that the Nintendo Switch came out. We also have a bunch of different games such as Mario Kart, Animal Crossing, Doom, Metroid Dread, and so many others that are getting major updates in the form of DLCs, which keeps making those games get better and better and better year after year, giving you so much more content that you can actually go out and keep playing for the next year or two. The older crowd looking to buy a Nintendo Switch, NES, SNES, N64 and Sega Genesis games are now supported in the form of emulation if you get the Nintendo Switch online subscription, which is slightly more expensive now in 2022 than it was a couple of years ago, but the benefits are unparalleled. And guys, you're gonna get all those retro games that you grew up playing on a handheld console, on a hybrid console that can not only play those retro games but play them really, really well because there are improvements coming every week. But you can also play modern day AAA Nintendo first party titles on this console. So that's fantastic, and that's something no other console in the market can actually do. Online gameplay has never really been one of Nintendo's strong points, and it's been something that's definitely been lacking on the console for the last few years. Nintendo has released a statement stating that they'll be giving you better features with their online gameplay. They're gonna work on improving it. So while it's definitely not as good as the Xbox or the PlayStation when it comes to online multi-platform gameplay, and the graphics aren't as powerful, Nintendo is still working on improving these things with the help of software upgrades, which only goes out to show that even 5 years later, Nintendo themselves are not done with this lineup of consoles. That is security in the best way possible. And also that amazing lineup of games that I talked about, let me give you a few examples. You have Kirby and the Forgotten Land, which is now in 3D. That's expected to release now in the month of March. You also have Mario Strikers, Bayonetta 3, Splatoon 3, the new Xenoblade game, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and the brand new Zelda Breath of the Wild, the first version of which was so good that was a reason alone to buy a Nintendo Switch when this console launched. It's one of the hottest games and it's all expected still to release this year in 2022. You can only imagine what kind of first-party bangers you're gonna get if you pick up a Nintendo Switch today. Trust me, this video is not sponsored. I'm a nerd and I'm a handheld gamer ever since I was a kid. I've been using Game Boys, I've used the Nintendo DS, I've used the 3DS, I eventually got a Wii, and now I've come to the Nintendo Switch, and I absolutely love this console. And that's actually why I'm talking about this console for the third time on this channel already. One of Nintendo's biggest franchises over the years has been the Pokemon franchise, which has grown. It was on all their consoles, it's come to the Switch, but we have a brand new gaming engine which came in the form of Pokemon Arceus. It's released about a month ago, and it's got Pokemon fans, old school Pokemon fans too, completely going crazy because you now have an open world which you can explore. They've changed the game engine completely. The gameplay style is so different to what it used to be that you can sink in hours and hours playing these games, and you have so much more expected with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out this year. So one of the biggest franchises has actually taken a turn in the console's 5th year, which was not something people actually expected. Metroid Dread launched a couple of months ago, and I'm a big Metroid fan. A lot of Metroid original fans are having a blast because Seamus, she's on her new mission, she's killing it. It is a fantastic game, and the game is actually quite challenging, which is going to pretty much keep you on your toes. Mario Maker and Super Smash Bros. Keep getting updates in the form of DLC, and to be completely honest, while Mario Maker is great, I think Smash Bros. Is the highlight. This game released a couple of years ago, and even today, it is one of the most fun games you can play, especially in multiplayer mode when you want to sit down with a friend and play it, and I think it's better than 90% of the games you find even on other platforms. It is absolutely bananas. What I want to say today after having a Switch for the last 4 years is that if you're a new owner, be prepared to have the next 5 years of your life sink into a tiny console like the Nintendo Switch. But if you're a current owner, you have so much more to look forward to in the next 1 year. The lineup is insane and you're not going to be sorry. Also, the part where the Nintendo Switch is a hybrid console pretty much beats every other handheld and every other home-based console on the market, primarily taking that into account, the fact that it's a hybrid console. We don't have any other hybrid console that performs half as well as the Nintendo Switch does. I know you're probably sitting there and saying, bro, I've heard all the rumors about a brand new Switch console that's supposed to come out, the Nintendo Switch Pro or the Nintendo Switch 2 with better graphics, 4K gameplay, better performance, better efficiency, a brand new chip, a possible minute redesign. But honestly, listen to me, the consoles that we have in the lineup for the Nintendo Switch today are selling and breaking records every day. Their sale records are all over the place. I honestly don't believe we're going to be seeing a brand new Switch console until the end of this year or early next year, easy. So if you're on the fence and you want to pick up a handheld or a home-based TV console or a hybrid console that's a lot of fun, or you just want to play with your family and friends and you want a small console that can do a lot of stuff, sure, the current console lineup isn't the best and it's definitely got its drawbacks. It isn't perfect. It could definitely use some work, and a new Switch with all those improvements that we're thinking about, hearing about and even talking about, yeah, it would be fantastic. I would kill for it. I would be the first person in line to buy it. But that means absolutely nothing when you think about the amount of time that you can sink in, the amount of fun that you can have, and the amount of fun that's promised in the next 1 year on this console. If you're actually watching this video, I want you to remember that gaming is all about having fun. Whether you do it professionally as a streamer or you do it for recreation like I do, honestly, gaming is about having fun. And if you're not having fun with the console in your hands, with the controller in your hands, you're probably doing it wrong. It's not all about the graphics, it's not all about crazy performance, it's not all about high frame rates. It's about the experience at the end of the day, whether you have fun with it or not, and that's what counts the most. This is pretty much where the Nintendo Switch stands 5 years down the line. It's a fantastic console. It's probably going to be around for the next 2 or 3 years. The lineups promised are fantastic, and we're probably going to have another Nintendo Direct around June of this year. We're going to learn a lot more about the games that are yet to come onto this console. So stay tuned. If you're on the fence, definitely go out and pick up a Nintendo Switch. The Switch just turned 5, and I think the 5th year is going to be one of its strongest ever. It's my favorite console. I hope you enjoyed this video. Peace.